In this section, we would talk about Yojana March edition 2022, which deals with the economic scenario. The budget summary has been discussed. Now, all this material, the handouts, the graphs would be available at Examre's current affairs section. So, this summaries, then PIB summaries, important topics from Wikaspedia, etc. are already covered there. So, you can just go to Examre's current affairs and get all the updates there. So the first one is millets here. 2023, we have seen that it has been announced as the International Year for Millets, and Government of India has moved this resolution in UN to declare this as an International Year of Millet. Branding millet products nationally and internationally is important. The Indian Institute of Millet Research at Hyderabad is one of the key institutes which is being focusing on development and export of millets. The next is boosting the infrastructure. We have nearly 5 trillion economic target for India's GDP, which is an ambitious target, and then creating physical infrastructure under the Gati Shakti mission is important. So Gati Shakti National Plan tries to integrate all the planning projects and bring in infrastructure connectivity. It includes 16 ministries, including railway and the roads, and leverages the GIS system and enterprise resource planning, which is used by BISAG, the Bhaskaracharya Institute at Gandhinagar, to come up with a comprehensive data plan. It would cover nearly 25,000 kilometers of national highway, one station, one product, open source mobility stack, and 400 new generation Vande Bharat trains, would be part of it. Then is the Bharatmala Pariyojana, which aims to develop highway projects and is very, very important for infrastructural development. Nearly 34,800 kilometers of highway would be completed, 90% by NHI, the National Highway Authority of India. Then is the Ministry for Road and Transport, PWD, and NHI DCL. Now, under this, the National Highway Authority of India, most of the investment comes from the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan and the Canada Pension Plan. We have seen 5 express projects, which is Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Dholera, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, Amritsar, Katra, and Kanpur, Lucknow as a part of it. Zojila Tunnel, which is the Srinagar-Leh road, has been developed, and this has reduced the distance from 3 hours to just 15 minutes. The project for monetization has come up under the INVIT scheme, which is Infrastructural Investment Trust, which is part of the National Monetization Pipeline. Also, we have seen that federalism, when we talk about federalism, it is the fiscal federalism, cooperative federalism, and competitive federalism. Fiscal federalism combines both cooperative and competitive federalism, and in the post-pandemic era, it talks about equitable growth, improving the ease of living, and environmental sustainability. It is one of the biggest themes to boost the growth and employment through large-scale increase in public investment. Also, we seek to provide equal treatment to center and state government employees with increased tax deduction limit from 10% to 14% on employees' contribution to NPS, and it is proposed to amend section 119 to enable the CBDT to provide relief on the fees imposed for not furnishing the returns on due dates. Then is the Aspirational District Program, which is launched by Niti Aayog in 2018, focuses on certain districts and improvement of the facilities in those districts. Then is the Pradhan Mantri Initiative for Development of Northeast, which is for the social development project. GST and GST collection has been discussed. The estimated and balanced budget has been talked about, which we have previously covered. Now down to earth, we won't be repeating it again. Under MSMEs, interlinking the Udyam, eShram, NSC, and ASEEM portals is important. Bringing in focus on hospitality and related enterprise, GDP and fiscal deficit tax proposals, so taxpayers could file an updated return from the last year's revised return for up to 2 years from the end of the relevant assessment year, and that's one of the changes that has come. Tax relief to persons with disability. Under direct tax, we have seen a transfer of virtual digital asset of 1%. That transfer would be taxed at a rate of 30% without any reduction, allowance, or set of losses. Cess classification, which includes the health and the educational cess, is important, and we are trying to understand understand that any cess on the income or the profit is not allowed as business expenditure and should not be included in the income to be taxed. Bonus expansion and dividend to be removed. Virtual digital assets and cryptocurrencies become a new topic, and then government is launching its own currency, the cyber currency, which is important. Under indirect tax proposal, we are reducing the duty on import of shrimp aquaculture, reviewing the custom exemptions. Unblended fuel would have differential excise duty. Custom rates have been changed. Under textile, we have seen changes in the tariffs, mainly in upholstery and upholstery fabrics. Under capital goods, we have more than 42 custom duty exemptions which have been done for various capital good projects. Duty-free imports would be provided. Excise duty rate change would be done, and there would be an excise duty of an additional 2 rupees per litre on unblended petrol and diesel from 1st October 2022. The idea is to promote blended petroleum with ethanol and diesel. Harnessing the multiplier effect, we have seen that enhanced limit of borrowing of the states, the loans to the state in line of the GST compensation shortfall, boosting the capital expenditure for both public and private sector, and focusing on the increase in the center's capital expenditure. So there are special assistance to the state, which are version 1.1. The part 1 talks about 8 northeast and 2 hilly states. Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh have been allocated special amount. Under part 2, we have talked about the amount being divided by the central taxes under the 15th Finance Commission. Under part 3, the incentives to states which have aimed to improve the reforms and bring in changes have been taken into account. Under the version 2.2, part 1 again focuses on northeast and hilly states, part 2 focuses on the central taxes, and part 3 again on the incentives for the state public enterprise. The reforms have been identified as citizen centric, which is ease of doing business, one nation, one ration, urban local body, power sector reforms. Then we have the losses, which is aggregated technical and commercial losses, reduction in the gap between average cost of supply and average revenue relax, focusing on stimulation of reforms in the state. Then talking about the Reserve Bank of India credit directive directions, which allows the banks, the pension funds and the mutual funds to write credit default swaps. Corporate debt penetration is only 17% in India, which is 123% in US, 74% in Korea and 34% in Singapore. The bond ratings and the respective proportion and total issuance is again important. Focusing on the monetary budget, some of the data has been given. Then under the banks, for the bonds which have been purchased for investment, there are 3 categories available for sale: held till maturity and trading category. So bond loss value bonds actually lose value much faster in the case of credit downgrade, which is not in the case of corporate loan, which is again important to understand. Then we have calculation of digital payment index, which focuses on payment enablers, payment demand side factors, payment infrastructure, supply side factors, and customer centricity. Special incentive schemes to be taken into account. 5 announcements which have been done in the budget, which focuses on digital banking, core banking solutions, new taxation systems for cryptocurrency or virtual digital assets, and central bank digital currency, which would be introduced. So digital banking unit would start an online e-billing service. The central bank digital currency would be started in 2022, and which would be much more efficient and cheaper and boost the digital economy. It would be in 2 forms, for the wholesale and the retail purpose. Then the core banking solutions would include the PPF, KVP, NSC, and the monthly income scheme. Cryptocurrencies, as we already said, the virtual digital asset, as it has been termed, that would have 3 propositions. One is the income would be taxed at 30%, TDS at 1% would be deducted, and if it is received as a gift, then the one receiving it would have to give the tax at the market value. So those are some of the statistical curves which depict the following details and the sources of financing. So those would be available in the handouts. Now coming on to India's demographic dividend, we have seen that India median age is 28, which is one of the youngest in the world. We are 5th of the world's youth population, and therefore we have a huge role in creating a global powerhouse. India is left with only 20 years more for reaping the advantage of this demographic dividend, and then we would set to decline. We would be on a declining curve. So right now, animation, visual effect, gaming, and comics actually would suggest the ways to develop this sector. And for domestic building, Desh Stack e-portal, which we have already covered in our Kurukshetra, motivates the young population to sharpen their skills, to reskill and upskill. Digital University would be built on a hub and spoke model with different languages and ICT format for personalized learning experience. Youth entrepreneurship would start a good ecosystem, employment opportunities where nearly 62% of the employment and 10% of new job seekers would be added. The current labor force participation is around 50%, and it's estimated that by 2047, India would have 100 years of its independence, half of its population would live in urban areas. For the service sector, again, we have the following statistics. As it comes with the agriculture, the recommendations are startups for innovations, promoting alternative fertilizers like nano urea, organic fertilizers, improving productivity, developing and implementing small holding farm technologies for improving productivity, crop diversification, and then procurement, chemical free farming, benefits with digital and high tech services, Kisan drones, launching of funds for blended capital and financing the agricultural startups. Green economy, we are targeting towards carbon neutrality and development. For the carbon neutrality, the funds have been allocated for the same. For the rural initiative, we are saying that for rural women, Mudra Yojana would be launched, which is entrepreneurship and skill for the women. Deen Dayal Antyodaya scheme for rural livelihood mission for providing rural households, which is a central scheme to eliminate the poverty. And then Mahila Kisan Sashaktikiran Pariyojana, which aims to empower the women and their livelihoods, creating three broad focus programs which lead to sustainable agriculture, non-timber forest produce, and value chain development is important. Ajivika Gramin Yojana, which talks about the affordable community monitored transport services to rural areas, e-marketing, which is mainly for the sales collection. Government is working with eGEM, which is the government e-marketplace, an initiative between the government marketplace and the National Rural Livelihood Mission for the rural self-help groups. Partnering with the various organizations and various ministries for the same is another important aspect that has been done. So in this section, we have talked about how economic boost can be done, how the various segments of agriculture, industry, infrastructure could be rejuvenated, and what are the major projects which are running in line of that. For 2022, we would be coming up with expected question series in the coming session, so don't miss those. And also, we are planning to have these mock papers for CSET and paper 1, which are already available on Doorstep Tutor. So just practice those, and that would give you a greater insight on the kind of questions that could come for your UPSC. Thank you.